Welcome to another edition of We Need to Talk About Movies, brought to you by BanterFlix.com. And now, here's your host, Jim McLean.
Hello. Yes, I'm Jim McLean, the editor-in-chief of the BanterFlix movie review website. Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast, We Need to Talk About Movies. So on this episode, I don't feature prominently, but I thought, since I'm not on this episode that much, I'd do something different. And I think I'll try this going forward, that I'm out for a lovely evening stroll with my lovely wife, Miss Amber.
Hello.
And we're out walking round the vicinity of Banter HQ, and this means I can ramble on a bit, maybe get Amber involved. Is there much chance of this happening, Amber, me getting you involved in this introduction?
No.
Yeah, we're going to, but we could, because listeners, your editor-in-chief has ventured outside of film criticism and is now cooking with his wife at Cooking at 61. And Amber, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about that?
We choose a cookbook, we pick a recipe, we cook it and we put it on Instagram, then we eat it.
Yeah, and so far we've had a lot of yum stuff. So check that out on Instagram, Cooking at 61. And Amber, you also do your own art projects as well.
Yes.
So do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about that?
It's anything I like to do creatively, so crochet and wreaths and different bits and pieces and a bit of painting this week for a very special boy.
Yeah, very special boy, my bro Cooper. But we don't.
And that's Art at 61.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So where can people find out more about that, Amber?
Instagram and Facebook.
And what's the handle?
Art at 61, but it has little lines in between the ball.
Little squiggly diggly lines.
Not squiggly, straight lines.
Okay, so there we go. So
Underscores.
So there you go, listeners. Banter HQ is also the hub for Cooking at 61, Art at 61, just an epicenter of creativity. So that's enough of us selling our own wares. This week's episode is a Geeking Out special, and I'm passing over hosting duties to our resident Geek Queen Jess Blair. Amber, you know Jess.
I do.
And you were saying earlier on you think Jess is a lovely girl.
She's alright.
Yeah, she's alright. Yeah.
She's alright.
Yeah, she's grand. You can have a good chat with her, especially about all things geeky, and that's what's going to happen on this pod. So Jess is going to be talking with an array of guests about The Mandalorian, which is on Disney+. It is a little bit of a spoilerific chat. I will say that right from the get-go. If you haven't watched Mandalorian, where have you been? Amber, you've even seen The Mandalorian.
I have.
And what did you think?
It was very good.
Yeah, so if Amber's seen it, did you cry at the end?
No,
Amber didn't cry at the end. She was strong. I might have teared up a wee bit, but regular listeners will know I cry at almost everything. And
Baby Yoda, very cute.
Baby Yoda is cute, and I think that will come across quite frequently in this recording. So enjoy the pod. That's enough of me. All I've really got to do is sell some wares for BanterFlix. You know, if you've never listened to us before, where have you been? But if you've been listening to us for a while, then you know what you're getting yourself in for. If you listen, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to make sure you never miss a single episode of the podcast. Check out the website, loads of articles, trailers, features, loads of stuff there. You might even want to check out our Patreon page, where you can find loads of special goodies and perks for supporting us and help make everything happen. So yeah, that's enough of that. Check out the website, all info's there, and I'm going to hand over to Jess and Co as they talk about all things Mandalorian.
Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us today on the latest episode of the BanterFlix podcast. This is a little bit of a side shoot, so we are the Banter Geeks, and as such we will be talking everything nerdy, geeky, and of course, awesome. So before we begin to go into today's podcast, I will introduce myself. I am Jess Blair, and I am the Banter Geek Queen of the BanterFlix team. And Joining me today is Bill Taylor from The Sixth Sense. How you, Bill?
How's it going? I'm the Podzilla of The Sixth Sense. I am our official spokesperson. Not really. I'm just the best one of the four of us. Just being
At least
honest.
you can admit it.
Not the
You
four,
can admit it.
not the best four of us. The best of the four of The Sixth Sense.
Absolutely. And also joining us today is Pete Sutton of the 501st and cosplayer extraordinaire. How you, Pete?
Thank you. Extraordinaire. I like the sound of that. I've been called many things in my cosplay carry on, but never extraordinaire. Usually a lot worse by the man below me, your husband, you're going to introduce next. But thank you for that. I'll take that. I like that. Thank you very much.
Very much welcome. And as well, do I really need to introduce, as you all know, my lovely husband, Warren Blair, photographer for BanterFlix and general BanterFlix contributor, is with me today cosplaying as the lovely Gimli.
I don't care. It's glorious, all right, ciao. It's okay.
What's the weather like down there, Warren?
Great.
Ew.
It's less windy than up there.
Woohoo! I don't know.
Well, I think lockdown is certainly affecting all of us today, now that we're allowed to socialise a little bit online. So we're all here today, of course, to talk about season 2 of The Mandalorian. It started airing there last year on Disney Plus. And I'm not sure about the rest of you guys, but I know me and Warren waited until Christmas Day, until all episodes are finished, and we binged it in a single go, and we were not disappointed. So let's all start with the absolute obvious. What did you all think of season 2?
Outstanding. I have
There
to
we go.
say, I have to say, I was very impressed. I did not do what you did. I watched it 1 week and then another one for another week. I prefer to stretch it out like that. And I have to say, I was not disappointed. I was expecting some slow episodes like in the first season. But no, I had a feeling that by the time they came to write the second one, they knew they had us all hook, line, and sinker. So they knew exactly what they were doing.
Why would you stretch
Well-
it out like that? That's just insane.
Because some of us have jobs and
Yep.
have to get up in the morning and go to work.
Yep, that's it. I mean, we in our house, my wife and I both are working from home, especially on Fridays. So it was like basically 9 o'clock downstairs, both sitting there with our work laptops and just watching The Mandalorian. And now we're doing the same thing with WandaVision, which
Oh,
obviously is
yes.
different
Ooh.
show altogether. But same sort of
That
thing. We
sounds
did
like
the
another
same.
podcast.
We used to do the same. We used to get up really early, about 3 years ago, I think, for the Twin Peaks sort of revival. We used to get up and watch that with coffee, of course. But The Mandalorian, I mean, oh my God, I mean, season 2 just hits the ground running.
Mhm.
I mean, right from the start, I mean, if you weren't hooked already from the first season, season 2 is just, it's everything you wanted Star Wars to be. After the letdown of the sequel trilogy. I mean,
Oh,
I
God.
don't personally, I don't count Rogue One and Solo in those because I think they are some of the best things to come out of Star Wars in the last 15, 20 years anyway.
You enjoyed Solo?
Yeah, I loved how it built
Oh.
upon the machinations of the Empire. So as a cosplayer, Pete, you should be loving that. I mean, the amount of different Imperial uniforms we get in that film, I think it's about five or six new uniforms. I mean, mud
It was-
troopers and patrol troopers and all these other things. Building upon the Star Wars universe, I think Solo did a great job. And Rogue One, everybody loves
Oh,
Rogue
yeah.
One. Come on. But Mandalorian,
Awesome movie.
thumbs up. 2 thumbs up from me.
Mm-hmm. I
What about
agree.
you, Miss? Oh, sorry.
No, go
Pete.
ahead, Jess.
I was going to say, what about yourself, Mr. Blair, down there?
Ah, it was shite. No, absolutely loved it. You know yourself, Jess. I mean, you and me sat and watched it together and just like mouth open the whole time, So, yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I think you were right about when you said it hit the ground running, because episode 1, I'm having a look here, episode 1 was the Marshal, and we were all waiting to see how long it'll be before he starts tying some of the old trilogy into it. And straight off, Boba Fett's armor, and you're like, I mean, let's wait to the second episode. No, let's just get stuck in. And I mean, the Marshal himself, Hitman himself, I mean, my God, was he just so cool. And then we got to see the interaction with the Sam people, which was fantastic, because the fact that in the first season, Mando was talking to Sam people and twisted that, because we've always wanted to know a bit more about them, rather than, Anakin going buck mad with a lightsaber with mommy issues. I mean, come on now. And he, it's Filoni. We all know it's Dave Filoni. I mean, if you watch any of the extras, he is the encyclopedia of Star Wars now, without a shadow of a doubt. And he's the one that he's the one going, well, what about a wee bit of this? What about a wee bit of that? And sort of guides them into, the Sam people. They're basically the like, I would say almost like the Native Americans of Star Wars. It's their land. They were there first, and then to flesh those guys out, and then to have a crate dragon. I mean, my God, come on. You can't have enough dragons in TV nowadays. Game of Thrones, help us.
I think we can all definitely agree. Like, the big thing that I've always kind of said, especially watching The Mandalorian, just to kind of preface this, I've always enjoyed the Star Wars films, but I wouldn't have ever said I was a massive, massive kind of like part of the fandom fans, if you know what I mean.
Divorce. Warren, divorce.
Stop. Oh. Sorry. It was more that kind of, I enjoyed the films for what they were. I grew up with the sequel trilogy. And so I liked Jar Jar. I liked all the things people hated because I was a little kid. It was aimed at my kind of age group at the time. And then I liked the original trilogy for fleshing out the sequel, but was never that big of a fan. But you see, then once the latest sequel trilogy and The Mandalorian came out, that's when I think I would definitely say I became a Star Wars fan, because The Mandalorian almost opened up the Star Wars universe for me to understand it that little bit better, sort of focusing in a little bit more on a more narrow pack of a story. And then having Filoni bring everything in helped expand the universe out and make it, for me, that much more interesting. And I think it's very much safe to say that, like, Filoni is how he can walk without that broken back, carrying the entirety of the Star Wars universe at the moment as he is. He's definitely made it a more accessible, I think, fandom now. He's bringing in new fans, and he's bringing it back, in my opinion, to that kind of storyline pill that you got from the original trilogy. If that kind of makes sense, it's the way that I'm viewing this. So
you got the feeling that we got. You got the feeling that we first saw the original A New Hope. What the hell is this? It's dirty, it's grubby, it's grimy, it's, who are these people? I love them. It's like a Western in space. There we go.
Exactly. To me, I sort of, like, exactly like you said, I felt how the true proper Star Wars fans feel watching that original trilogy. Because obviously after watching the season 1 of The Mando when it came out, I went back and sort of rewatched all the films. Kind of now I understood a little bit more. I was more interested this time around. And it was amazing, just kind of more, oh wow, actually Star Wars is freaking amazing. I always enjoyed it, but it really brought me into now saying, you know what, Star Wars is brilliant in general. It's absolutely fantastic. And I think, I like the way season 2 built more upon that. Season 1 was kind of the pull in. Season 2 was the expansion.
Yeah.
In my opinion. When you watch the first, like, we're talking about the first episode, and you sort of seen him going and seek at the very beginning the information, and you're walking through this grimy, dirty city, and it's quite dark and dingy, and then you see all the tiny little Easter eggs as you're walking through, even before you're getting into the story, and it gets you that kind of, woo, this is gonna be good, because you're sort of feeling yourself get brought back into the universe. And I think Filoni did that in such a masterful way.
I suppose he cut his threads doing that for us lot with the Clone Wars. The fact that he was given reign over that. He what he did with those, and then the end of the Clone Wars. I mean, I don't want to give spoilers, but the end of that last episode. Oh my God, what a fantastic way to finish it. I think if he hadn't done that, I don't think we would have been where we are now. It's just a happy coincidence that everything has just come into alignment at this time, and especially Star Wars was dead on its feet. Oh dear Lord! As much as I tried to like those last 3 movies, oh dear Jesus God, it was hard work though. It really
Yeah,
was.
I would agree with that. Like,
I mean,
I'll be the outlier.
Sith
I
troopers,
enjoyed them.
Sith troopers. I'm currently trying to make a Sith trooper helmet, just because it looks so cool. But what was the bloody point of them? You didn't
Yeah.
really, and there's so many holes in it, so many holes.
it's that last film. There was a couple of things that really annoyed me about it, and it's like they had the bike with the treads on it
Mhm.
going along the sand, and I'm like, you already have speeder bikes. Why do you need something that's got moving parts? This is ridiculous.
And this
Why
is
you-
after the original speeder bikes have been
Yeah,
out.
you've
supposedly
already
in the
got
timeline.
hover technology. Why are you going back to treads? Why are you going back to something where somebody has to mechanicalize? And, we know as engineers or whatever that moving parts tend to break more than solid state. I mean, what he's doing here? It's
You have
ridiculous.
troopers with jetpacks on them, but
Yeah.
they're on a motorbike.
Yeah,
What?
that makes no sense. And you have to hit the brake on the bike to make it to flip the guy so he can get a good jump. No, sorry.
Oh no.
J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, I'm going to say it now, they should be hung for crimes against cinema.
You see, I like the Star
That's
Trek.
a hot take. That
In
is
Star
a
Treks,
hot
I
take.
trust.
Star Trek's okay. I don't mind Star Trek, but what those two guys did to those Star Wars films is absolutely ridiculous.
I agree. The lens flare moments and the out of focus bits, the Josh Whedon Firefly moments, I want to add, thank you very much. He did it first. Just didn't work. I mean, Richard E. Grant, he was hamming. He was a tin of ham in that movie,
Yeah.
and he shouldn't be. He could be. I mean, if he had played it like Peter Cushing did, he would have been so scary, so straight down the line, so god awful chill scary. But it was just a ham fest from start to finish,
But
which the Mando isn't.
we did get Eddie Hitler as an Imperial officer. That's the one
Yes,
good takeaway.
yes, the Dangerous Brothers. Yeah.
It's bad though. When I seen Richard E. Grant, all I could see in my head was the Spice Girls tour manager.
Oh dear God, I'm getting with
Yeah,
Neil.
I'm
Aye,
that.
that's
Remember, I'm
quality.
that generation. That's
Yeah.
where I remember Richard E. Grant from. He was in the Spice World movie.
I was waiting for him to say I've come on holiday by mistake, getting a lift and get the bugger out of there. But that's not what the Mando was doing. There's none of that. I mean, the light sense of humor that they're bringing into it is obviously simple things like the interaction with Baby Yoda / Grogu with some of the issues there, or the Mandalorian doing. Now, I'm going to say something here. Doing an Indiana Jones, he's not great. Sometimes he's just that little bit out of his depth and a little bit crap, which is Indiana Jones, which makes us relate more to the hero, which is what the Mando is. The time when he gets in the open, I think is it the passenger where they ambush him? It's either the passenger or the marshal, where they ambush him with the rope to get the child, and the little Jawa character runs away with a jetpack. He hits the button, the thing flies up, and he just looks at Baby Yoda, who looks at him, and he just goes like that. He's not ultra cool, ultra blast him. The wee Jawa got the better of him, but he still, he got away. That's what I like about it. He's just a bit crap at times, which he should be.
Well, it's a journey. It's the whole story of the Mandalorian. It's not just a journey to find Baby Yoda. I mean, this is Din Djarin trying to find himself as well, and his people, his cohort or whatever,
which he didn't know what he was.
Yeah, because he's not a. I mean, this is a thread that goes through the entire Star Wars, and I think maybe it kind of misses the point maybe in the films, and that is it's primarily about family. That's what the whole thing is. Whether family is somebody that you're related to, or whether you've been thrown with and you have similar interests or similar life or whatever. I mean, that's Star Wars in a nutshell. It's all about family and core values and that sort of thing. And the Mandalorian doesn't stray from that. I mean, the two, along the greedy wee bastard and Jin, the two of them are just fantastic. It's like a wee comedy act, straight guy, comedy guy. And as a sort of like comedy writer, you see those little wee nuances and stuff, and that's one of the things I do. I agree with you, Pete. The wee comedy aspects. I mean, I laugh my bollocks off whenever the Great Dragon came out and had those fucking sand people, because they were just running. They were just running. It's like, oh, it's pointless.
Give them a red shirt. That's what they are. Give them a red shirt.
It's like back to Prometheus. Let's run the direction the ship's falling. You know,
So
brilliant.
true.
That's comedy, just pure. But there's loads of little bits like that.
Mhm.
I mean, the Baby Yoda guy, you know, in the air duct trying to fix and get the cables and stuff. He says, "No, don't touch that. Don't touch that."
I am Groot.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
beautiful
But
little
that's what was so
moments.
nice about it. You know, you had those really kind of iconic little comedic moments, but it never felt like it detracted from the overall story. It all felt so natural, you know. It was so easy to get sucked into, like, this is this great adventure of like Din Djarin trying to figure out where he stands as a Mandalorian, because obviously we know from season 1 that he was kind of like a junior Mandalorian. You hadn't got his
Yeah.
jetpack yet, and was still kind of, you know, getting his sigil and learning the creed. And then we obviously now got Baby Yoda, who needs, well, Grogu. I'm sorry, Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
You know, we need to find out where he came from and all the rest of it. But then it's this big saga, but it felt so natural because you need to remember Din Djarin's not a dad. You know, Din Djarin does not even know what creature Baby Yoda is. How do I raise this thing? How do I help this thing? And it's seeing that little like natural kind of melding into the little family, almost the way that Din Djarin would have been being brought into the creed of the Mandalorian.
Yep.
But he's doing that now with Baby Yoda and finding almost a bit of humanity, because in season 1 you would have said like Din Djarin, or you know, the Mando was quite not robotic, but very much, this is the way, this is the creed.
Yep.
I will
Mhm.
follow the Mando. And you're starting to see as it goes through him softening. And then you're seeing him
Yeah.
more in those comedic moments in season 2, more of him and how
Yeah.
his wee connection with you. And it was that kind of nice. It helped bring you, I think, closer to these characters and more invested in understanding, like, where are they going next? Will they get their quest? Will he find out who he is? And it was just so nice, you know.
I think that leads
It kind of,
that sort of what you said there with him trying to find out what he is. He didn't even know what sect of Mandalorian he was, which we find out in episode 3, the heiress. I've got the episode sitting down here,
Yep.
which they turn around and go, he's one of them, and he was one of what? So he's literally been brought up since the child that we've seen that was rescued by the Mandalorians in the Clone Wars. He's been brought up in this sect and knows nothing else, nothing about the rest of Mandalorian, only what he's been told, which I'm hoping they're going to expand. Well, I'm imagining they will, because let's face it, in the RS he meets Katie Sackhoff. All hail Katie.
Yep.
All hail Katie. Oh,
Mhm.
and also the fact that she's dating Judge Dredd. Come on. You know,
Didn't know
and the
that.
fact, oh yeah, I think they're engaged now, her and Carl Urban.
really?
Yeah. So I the fact that she was able to say, you know, what he was, what sect he was, and then at the very end, her parting, when her being the heiress, her being the rightful heir to Mandalore, she turned around and said to him, "This is the way," and he replied, "This is the way." I loved that little scene, because up until then, obviously, he threw the bucket up and said, "You're not Mandalorian," and buggered off on him. And then they came, and then they had a chat down, I think, and he used them, they used him to get what they wanted. But at the end, it was almost a recognition of, right, this is another step of who I am, where what this creed that I am in, who I am, the Mandalorians, not just me, the Mandalorians of part of us.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that's part of the journey they're going to go and expand on, because my favorite Star Wars books of all time are the Republic Commando ones, without a shadow, without Karen Travis, what she did and what she did for Star Wars there. I think if it wasn't for those books, we wouldn't be where we are. She based those books on the Celts, so the Mandalorians could go off and fight different battles like mercenaries, but at the end of the day, they are who they are, and they all come back to their planet. Now, I know there's a bit of a fallout with Lucas and her, and that's why she never finished them. But in the books themselves, you get the whole Mandalorian culture on Mandalore, all these little sects, little sections, but at the end of the day, they are who they are. They're a race of people, and they look after each other, which is where I hope this is going to go. Because I know Filoni is a big fan, because, look at the reaction when he put the Republic Commandos in that tiny little clip in the Clone Wars where they landed. It was released at one of the celebrations, just that clip, where they
Yeah,
land,
the whole place went nuts.
went ballistic when you
right.
saw the big T,
Yeah.
the blue T visors. just, I mean, it just shows you the love for Mandalorians and Mandalore out there at the minute, which obviously is what they're milking on here. But they're not doing the usual Disney. They're not bleeding it dry, which is, we're getting a little bit of the history in RS. Then we'll go on with another part of the journey, and we may get a little bit of something else, which I think is, we're all saying Filoni, but it's the double act. The two of them are just absolutely happy. I like calling them happy, because
I would say that's because you've got two fans that don't want to ruin it completely, whereas Disney, they don't give a crap. They'll just go, it's making us money.
It's money.
It's all about the money.
Yeah.
We say that as we're wearing Baby Yoda t-shirts. Just bear that in mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose
we fell for it.
Well, I'm okay with that. At the end of the day, so what? I'm only human. But anyway, Disney just seems to be this big corporation that all they care about is money and their income, and then anything after that is just an afterthought. So
yeah, but I think they're coming round to the notion that it's the old values. Yes, they are a business. Ultimately, first and foremost, they are a business. But they do. I think they do understand at some level that they have a responsibility as well to, they've got their own characters and that Mickey Mouse and stuff like that. And there's only certain things you can do with Mickey Mouse legally that you're allowed to do. They have a set amount of rules that, Mickey does this, he doesn't do this. And I think they've definitely, I think they've learned a harsh lesson, I think, with the sequel trilogy. They pumped all this money in, getting all these stories and all this sort of stuff, and they basically, I think they kept George out in the cold on that, because he sort of had a blueprint of where he wanted things to go, and they basically said no. But I think they're finally coming round to realizing, well, hold on a minute, if we keep fans happy, they spend more.
Yes,
which is,
that's it.
That's ultimately the goal. They are business; they need to make money, but they can also make people happy.
Yeah, I was actually just building off what yourself and Pete has said there. That was the big thing that I liked about the Mando. Like, when I think back to like the latest sort of sequel trilogy, I enjoyed them for what they were, but learning kind of more about Star Wars and kind of getting a bit into it more myself, I do watch it now with a bit of you can drive a bus through that plot hole, mate. It's a bit crap. I'm starting to understand that, and it takes the shine off it a little. But I think that's where, just bringing it kind of back into the Mandalorian, we're starting to see the repairs, and then we can also see from it and kind of the discussions then of how the Mandalorian is going to go, because obviously, based on kind of, obviously, in spoilerific detail, we should probably mention this at the very start of the podcast, looking at the finale of season 2, where we all just like died a little inside of sheer happiness, that creates a massive problem for the latest trilogy, in my opinion. There's a lot of questions there that aren't answered. And then we're now starting to see Disney have realized that, because there's now talks about this Hall of Mirrors. We could reboot. That trilogy was an alternative reality. We could go somewhere else.
Yeah, I hope they do.
And we're now starting to understand that. So I think we should talk a little bit then about the finale before we maybe start going on, because I'm sorry, I have to talk about the finale.
Hang on.
Warren will tell you.
Should we not mention one episode in particular that before the finale, the Ahsoka one, because I want to hit on that. Oh my good giddy aunt God.
There's so much in that.
God. I mean, we finally get to see, apart from a live action Ahsoka, because we've all been crying out for it, we got to see a Jedi, which is not a Jedi, but she's Jedi, which is not a Jedi, kicking ass again, properly kicking ass. And also the fact it was Dana Santo's wee one. I mean, as a martial art fan myself, that was just like, that was the icing on the cake.
That's Bruce Lee's goddaughter, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And
Michael Biehn as well.
Oh,
that was brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah.
That was good. But not a lot, not only all that, we finally get to find out what, Baby Yoda's name is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's obviously Grogu.
And how she's able to communicate with him. How she's able to, say what he's feeling.
Yeah.
And what he feels, again, the family issues you've said, what he feels about the Mandalorian himself, what the Grogu's, Baby Yoda, about his feelings towards him, and how he wouldn't grab the ball to, and just little moments like that. As you've said, they seem to be able to start repair. It's a big, massive repair shop without even knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
It is like watching that BBC show, The Repair Shop. Your heart goes out at the end of it. You're in bits, but right the way through, you're on the edge of seat going, "Oh, this little box means so much." And that's what they're doing. This little episode, you've got Ahsoka, you've live action, you've got her with the dual lightsabers, you've got her using her force powers, the speed, and the viciousness at times of her. You're loving that. And then at the end, you've got Baby Yoda, and the family issue with the Mandalorian. You're just like, so many things, just tweaks, little tweaks here, little tweaks there. I think also, as you've said, Jess, just because it's Star Wars doesn't mean it can be crap writing. It can be intelligent, good writing, still make them money, still make it enjoyable, and still make it open to people. I mean, I have people who are friends of mine who are watching it, don't watch Star Wars, and are absolutely loving the Mando.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that builds on what, Bill, you were saying earlier. Ultimately, Star Wars is all about family, and I think this is where the Mandalorian has really stood up to that point. And not only is the story about family, it's bringing families into watching this.
Mhm.
Star Wars was always kind of seen as that geeky domain of, middle-aged men living in basements type. That's the stereotype that kind of goes around the internet. We can't all deny that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's quite true. Says 50.
It's a bad stereotype, but it's now starting as well to bring it into that wider audience. Like, there's people I hang around with who would never have called themselves, themselves Star Wars fans, who have never seen Star Wars movies, who watch The Mandalorian and love it because they it's a brilliant show. It's fantastic, and that has been a brilliant thing to see as well. Like, it is something that you could technically watch standalone from Star Wars. Now, maybe there's a few wee bits you'll go, eh. Like, for me, I haven't seen the Clone Wars. I haven't watched it. I know it's on the list now. It's very much on my Disney Plus watch list.
To be honest, you're
But
not
learning,
alone.
but it was seeing Ahsoka that then kind of made me go, I need to watch Clone Wars. I need to learn more about her. Like, she is incredible. Like, where was she in the films? She's awesome. But it's that kind of nice. It's bringing people in the Star Wars in a much more accessible way than I think the movies have ever been able to achieve. And it's making it now just, I don't know, for me, it's making the whole Star Wars thing more interesting. We're starting to see this expansion, But I'll definitely, Ahsoka was just...
You have to watch.
Oh, wow. She is amazing.
I personally feel that they should go away from making movies and just stick with the TV series now, because if the last three are anything to go by, they're just going to lose fans.
2 words for it, though. Rogue One. If they weren't making movies, we wouldn't have seen Darth Vader doing what no matter who you are, that even if you're not a Star Wars fan, Darth Vader, you just want to see him go for it, and we finally did. Oh my God!
Must admit, Rogue One was incredible. I loved it so much.
In that opinion, then, if they're going to go for movies, I think then they need to do that instead. Make it a Star Wars inspired movie. Go down the route of standalone movies like that there, instead of doing a sequel to The Last Jedi and all that sort of things. Mm-hmm. I think then they need to go down that route and then keep with the TV series, but use people that are fans and are going to do it justice, instead of just bringing people in for the sake of bringing them in because they're a big name and they've done other things that have made money. But that doesn't always mean that this is going to do well just because they're a big name. Mm-hmm. It's like trying to make a movie and you've never seen it before. It's just not going to do well, or you're not a big fan of it, so you don't know those wee intricacies that you need to have.
But that's why you have Happy and Dave there.
Yeah.
To reel that in. I mean, I wouldn't. I know she said she's a big fan, Bryce Dallas. I wouldn't imagine she's a big fan of Star Wars. But my God, the 2 episodes she did were fantastic. The first one I thought was a little bit in season 1. I thought was a bit slow, but then I watched it again, and I loved the bits where that was when the Mando very nearly took the helmet off and decided to settle down. I mean, you were like, I'll give you that. And then the episodes in season 2, you're just like, I wouldn't have said she was a big Star Wars fan, but I think it brings something fresh to the production and the direction of an episode. But as long as
would she not have had John and Filoni sort of in the background?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you'd have those guys there going.
Yeah,
there's always that guiding force.
See, I thought she was.
Oh, look at the force here.
Because her dad and George Lucas, they go back a long way. Like, they're good friends.
You Richie Cunningham?
Yeah, since American Graffiti, they were good friends.
That's right. Jesus.
So, I think she did actually grow up with Star Wars.
Well, maybe not. I'm just saying, you could bringing in a director in who may not necessarily be an Uber fan is not necessarily a bad thing, because
it's not a bad thing.
Get it, as long as you have those guys in the background for your continuity, or maybe, I mean, they're the writers, so they're writing the episode. How it's directed is up to the director, but the core material is there. But can I just ask, the last episode, how many of you, hands up, how many of you initially thought, nah, it's not him? Because I did. I was watching, that's Filoni fucking with our heads. I'm allowed one F-bomb, and that was it. That's Filoni fucking with our heads. X-Wing, no, it's not him. Cloaked, no, it's not him. Black glove in his hand and a green lightsaber. Filoni knows what he's doing. He's roping us in. It's not going to be him. And then the reveal, and you're like, holy good God. All my birthdays.
Bad CGI.
Yeah, it was bad. I have to say,
I actually said, I turned to the wife when all this was happening, and I said, see if that isn't Sebastian Stan playing Luke Skywalker. They've made it balls up.
I thought that too. I must admit, when I did see the hood go down, I thought, well, we're getting a series with Sebastian in it, playing a young boy.
Does that definitely go ahead?
I hope so.
As far as I'm aware, a lot of the articles I'm reading online are, very much things are set in stone for that, or at least moving in the right direction. But it felt like a natural place to introduce them now, because obviously the Mando's all these series are going to tie in together.
You're doing a Marvel.
You're doing a Marvel. We're going to see like 101 series. Not complaining of Star Wars everything, and it would be a good way to bring him in. But I must admit, and I'm probably going to be the only one here now from the sounds of it, I actually thought, if any of you's ever seen the Star Wars Christmas special that got like barred,
if I had, I would never admit it.
That CGI looked more like Luke than Luke did when he was from that Christmas special.
Yeah.
It was. I have to agree.
He looked really strange, because that was just after his car accident, wasn't it?
I think it was, but I must admit, like, the CGI, I thought it was decent enough that it didn't detract. Like, I did, like, the minute there was nothing in it, when that hood came down, I'm not going to lie, when I seen the X-Wing, I turned to Warren, I went, it's him. It's Luke. And he just sort of looked at me like, no.
Now we're being fished
in. And then
in.
seen the hand, and it was like, it's Luke. I can see that a mile away. It's Luke. And when the hood came down, it was just like, you knew it was going to happen, but it was still like, oh my God, it's Luke.
For me, it was the Rogue One moment. It was, I got to see Luke Skywalker kick the living Jesus shit out of something. Where, I always want to see Vader do that. That, my favorite bit in Rogue One was Vader lifts the guy up in the ceiling, holds him there, cuts the guy in front of him in half, and then sort of goes, I haven't forgotten about you, and casually, you're in too now. And it was like that. And the only thing we hadn't seen was his use of the Force until the last robot. He was just looking at it and just goes, oh God, yes. Well, absolutely. Because of course, he has touched a bit on the dark side. I mean, let's face it, he faced off with the Emperor. Very few Jedi would have actually gone one toe-to-toe with a Sith Lord, never mind the Emperor. And he had come out the other end. So he would have a little bit of darkness about him. And I just loved the fact that he was absolutely merciless with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to see a lightsaber cut things in half, which on the last 3 movies, lightsaber physics, what? No,
They were just shiny glow
cuts things
sticks.
in half.
Yeah.
It goes through solid steel walls, and that's what he did with that. It was fantastic. And to see Gideon's face, because Gideon, obviously being the intelligence officer that he is, he would have
Just
known what a
seeing-
Jedi is. Whereas the other guys, half of them didn't have a clue. I mean, Din Djarin doesn't have a clue what a Jedi is. He's like, what? What did I? What's the wee man doing with his hand now? He doesn't have a clue. Whereas
Yeah.
the
But
way
that's-
Gideon's face was pure fear.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Because until he met Ahsoka, he had no idea,
Mm-hmm.
and he just thought this wee Baby Yoda thing had some sort of special power, and that was all it is. And then it was whenever Ahsoka actually explained it to him, he was going, "Oh, right, okay, fair enough."
Yeah, dead on. I believe you, thousands. Yeah, doing a whole hand solo. Give me a blaster. That's,
That's it.
Totally agree. But at the end, how many had a wee moment in your eye there? A wee, oh jeez,
There was definitely a bit of dust in the air. Like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
You couldn't mention that scene to me for about a week after because I bawled. I
Yeah.
was a mess. I was just when he puts his wee hand out to his face and he took I was gone, absolutely gone.
Yeah.
I was in
it
floods
definitely
on the floor.
it mirrors the scene of Luke and Darth Vader, Anakin.
Yeah.
That's what I
what I really
thought.
like. That's one of the good
That's what I
things about the
thought too.
Mandalorian. It's like we get the sense of history repeating and all that sort of stuff with the other films. Oh fuck, did we get that?
Mhm.
But the just nice mirroring of those scenes is just great. And again, it goes back to that thing about family and stuff. And to be honest, once it ended, it was like a very bittersweet moment because then I sort of went, well, does that fuck the Mandalorian then? Because that's the whole fucking story. That's it.
Yeah.
What's and then I sort of started thinking about it. Went, well, actually, they can probably write that he has to, hopefully come back, or he has to save him, or something. That's what the next quest or whatever for him's going to be. Hopefully, to save him from this next evil, which we kind of know is lurking about, thanks to those.
But what's it going to be? Is it going to be Thrawn? Because Thrawn was mentioned. I mean,
Thrawn was mentioned.
How many people have not wanted to see Thrawn? But Thrawn done properly. I can't remember whose name was batted about, and I was like, "Oh Jesus, no! Good God, no!" I can't remember. It was on one of the YouTube videos, but done properly. I mean, the menace that if it's done properly, that sheer menace of a character out there could be fantastic. Could really work. But then I suppose, where do they go? Because it's like Jess has said, Disney are now finding themselves having to backpedal for a bit. Now Grogu is with Luke. Does that mean he knows who Kylo Ren is? Because Kylo Ren, obviously Luke was there for him growing up, and this is now about the time. Grogu. We know he's 80 years old, and he's only a wee baby, so he's got to be around when Kylo Ren starts coming up as a kid. So how are they going to do that?
And we kind of know that Kylo Ren kills the rest of the students.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
that's what scares me.
Does he off Baby Yoda? Hopefully not.
The Disney would have a riot on their hands. I would show up to the mouse's house.
That's it.
And just bash down the door and
burn
go,
it
"Who do I need
down.
to slap?"
Burn it down. Burn down
Cinderella
Mouse
Palace. You better watch it.
I will be the first to concede the main reason I started watching the Mando was, what is the cute little green thing? Like, he's adorable.
So what are they going to do for the
There would be a riot
season?
on their hands.
There needs to be something. There needs to be something to hook those non-Star Wars fans. As my friend said, her ovaries practically burst when she first saw Baby Yoda. It's like, oh God almighty. So what are they going to do now? They have those fans who not necessarily Star Wars fans, but like the cute wee green thing. What are they going to do with that?
I think
hopefully they don't
do.
I don't want them to
have
do
to.
Guardians and have a teenage Grogu. Don't do that.
But I don't think that would work. He's 80 years old and he's still such a child, compared to what
Even
Yoda, who
when
was
you
800
hear,
years old.
Yeah, when you hear him starting to speak, like when every single time you heard his name Grogu, turning, I don't. It's like that baby babble. It was like,
It's minions.
my heart, I'm dying.
Banana.
But like, I'm not gonna lie. As much as I like that finale was incredible, within 30 seconds of that ending, though, when we were coming through the credits, like even before we start talking about that after credits scene, which is pretty interesting. The first thing I kind of then almost like stopped crying. I was like cold, like all of a sudden. But Kylo Ren killed everyone. What? Baby Yoda would have been there because Baby Yoda was like, look, what are we going to lose him? What's this? And it's now introduced as 1,000,001 questions, which I know from that posting's credit, the way that I think the series is going was like, they're called obviously these chapters. You know, book 1 and book 2 was season 1 and 2, and now we're on book 3, which is going to be Boba Fett. And I think that Din Djarin's going to have almost like that supporting role the way Boba Fett has had. You know, we're not going to lose him. So I think there has to be a bit of a side interest throughout Boba Fett into the monitoring of how Din Djarin is now obviously doing after losing his little son. And then are we going to know more? Because it has opened up this big barrel of questions. You know, it has in a way introduced major plot holes, in my opinion. And that's as someone who, again, as I've repeatedly said, I was never that in the Star Wars prior to all this. Like I said, I haven't seen Clone Wars. I haven't read the books. I've read some of the comics, but I don't know the other lore. But even just following that main storyline, I can drive the night bus from Harry Potter through the plot hole that is now available.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take an idiot to see that.
I mean,
How is that going to get answered? Like, this is now interesting. This is the interesting part now, is how in the heck are Disney going to work this one? And how are our favourite duo, Happy and Dave, going to reconcile all this? Like, how is this going to move forward?
I think for me, and maybe I'm reading this too much into it, but I mean, if now Baby Yoda is part of a Mandalorian family, the whole family thing. It doesn't matter what race, creed, whatever you are. You are a man. Yeah, you're a Mandalorian, and he is technically now part of Din Djarin's clan. So if he was killed by Kylo Ren, does that not mean the Mandalorians would just go and kill him? Because they would. You know, that's the whole family ethos that they say. You know, that we're being drip fed. We're being drip fed.
We don't see the Mandos.
Look after each other.
We don't see them in
that sequel trilogy. So that again is that bit of they've skipped a step here.
Yeah,
but I think also there's a bit of Happy and Dave slapping. I get the feeling they're doing a slap in the face of Disney, and they're showing that there's definitely a want for the inclusion of the original trilogy's characters or the original trilogy ethos in the new episodes and new movies. I mean, we all know that the Galaxy's Edge resort was initially going to be based in a trilogy until Kathleen Kennedy said, and it is out there saying that she was the one that said, no, we have to base it on the new movies because that's where the future is. That's where the future money will come from, rather than a bunch of middle-aged men throwing their money at it. We need kids involved. And I can understand why she did it, but it just didn't work. And then that last episode where everybody screamed out, it's Luke. You know, I think that was those guys going, you know what? We have great foundations to build off. Why try and build off new foundations when, you know, if the original quality is there, you don't need to go straight too far. I think, you know, I think they've been doing that, which is where we're going to start branching out with the Mandalorian, hopefully in season 3, and the offshoots, because we're bound to see more of Bo-Katan. We've got to see more of that.
Like that's the next interesting question. You know, Din Djarin is now technically the holder of the Darksaber.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a hell
you know,
of a
where are they going to go
point
there?
to end on, as, you know, because we've now got a separate clan of Mando. Pretty pissed at him because, excuse me, love, I'm the rightful heir. That's my saber. That's been my whole quest this whole season. Is I need that Darksaber, and now I don't have it. And it's a bit like, again, I'm going to go back to Harry Potter. It's a bit like the Elder Wand.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
And I'm not gonna lie, the minute it happens, they took that from Harry Potter. That's Harry Potter. That's how you get the Elder Wand.
You have to win it. You can't get given it.
You can't hand it over. And again, I like that little thing of, again, going back to, like, Din Djarin doesn't understand fully everything about the Mandalorian or all these
Wasn't a
other creeds,
clue.
because he was just like, well, here, just take it.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
you just can't do that. Exactly.
Can't do that. But again,
Yeah.
that's another kind of, they've left so much of the Mando himself open.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like we're going to move away from that with book 3, which will be season 3 of Boba Fett. Or at least
The
that's
book-
my
yeah.
understanding of these seasons.
I don't know. I think. I mean,
I don't
first
think
of all,
it's
can
a
I just say,
separate altogether
Tamura,
show.
Tamura, oh my God. Oh, absolutely. That was my geek moment. That was my geek moment, seeing him in the armor that he should have at some. It's like Tom Welling never got to wear the Superman suit, and that's wrong. Smallville, he never got to wear the Superman suit, and Tamura got to put on the proper armor. Now, I didn't like the way he done the new paint job, because I was a bit, didn't like it. But you know,
it
it needed
great,
something.
was
Said.
Yeah.
But you know, I that last closing scene, the post-credit scene of him sitting on the throne, looking menacing as hell. Mind you, we've already seen when he fought with a gaffy stick. Oh my good God! I mean, I
Yeah.
also heard that was some Maori stuff. He actually asked for that to be.
Yeah,
put
he
in.
incorporated it into it. He said.
Yeah.
He brought that in.
So
on
vicious.
set.
So vicious. But the last scene of him sitting in the chair, you know, sprockled out. The only way to say it is sprockled out. And you thought, oh, this could be the opening of another chapter going in that direction about, you know, how him taking over from the Fets, the whole the Godfather style of things. But the fact is, he still has a very close tie to Din Djarin, because, you know, Din Djarin could have absolutely wiped him, but he showed him his lineage. He didn't have to. He showed him his lineage, and he is, no matter what other fans think, he is a Mandalorian, and he showed that. And
His keychain.
Yeah, and you know, I hope they don't just go, right, my debt's settled, we looked after the kid, you got me my armor, that's done. I don't think it's going to work like that. I don't think they can. It's like Din Djarin looking after Bo-Katan. I've done my deal. Thank you very much. I'm pissing off now. That's not going to happen. So I think we're going to find at some stage it all coming back in, all the different factions of Mandalorian maybe coming back in together for the big final push, for the bit which we all know will come. I mean, at some stage, you know, there will be a battle of Mandalore. It will come. So I think that, you know, they could be aiming towards that way. I'm hoping. God knows.
It would make sense to go that way. You know, the season kind of, the way it ended, almost, you know, alludes to all of that. You know, the fact that we're starting, you know, season 2 seemed to have a lot of heavy emphasis on these other factions of Mandalore, a bit more of the history of the Mandalorian, because I must admit, the big question I had going into season 2, again, wasn't a massive Star Wars fan. What was the fascination with Boba Fett? You've seen him all of half an hour, probably max, in all those films. I don't get it.
He's
cool.
Badass. Yeah.
Cool. But you know, bugger all about him. Like, I mean,
he told Darth Vader to get stuffed.
He did. Fair play. I'll give him that. But you knew nothing about him.
You don't need to know anything about him. You just look at him and go, he's freaking cool.
Yeah.
To be fair, I said that about the Porgs.
As a
They
kid,
were adorable,
I think
fluffy,
that's
and
the
cute.
thing. It's
I never
more
had a go at me.
I remember
Less is more.
a kid. I had the big 12-inch figure of him when I was a kid. I don't have it now, but you know, it was the guy with the jetpack, the rocket launcher hand thing. I mean, that's, as a kid in the 80s, that was, you know, that was fantastic. I mean, you grew up. Everything you had in the 80s was all about weapons, because you had the likes of A-Team and all this sort of stuff. And it's just, you had this guy, green armor, just we planet on his chest, we insignia, the backpack. You look through the back of his head and stuff, the viewfinder, just little things they had, and it stuck with me.
Were you old enough to remember when David Prowse and Jeremy Bulloch came over to the old co-op building in Belfast? Empire was only just out, and David came over as a Green Cross Code man, and then came out as Vader, and Jeremy came out in the Boba Fett costume. I remember my gran took me to see them. The queue was right round the block. Now, for those uninitiated, the old co-op building is now student building. It's down where the art college is, and it was right round the block. And I do not know how my grandmother blagged in, but she blagged her way in, and I can remember standing there, and David came out in Vader. And I must have been lucky enough to be just over his kneecap height. And I just looked up and kept looking and looking and looking. And it was like, oh my good God, what is that? And then Jeremy came out. And Jeremy, it's just something. There was just something. I didn't know anything about that character, but that was just so much cooler. Absolutely, head and shoulders. As you've said, he was tooled up to the nines. He had a knife in his shin. He had this massive gun. He'd rockets on his wrist.
Knees can shoot rockets. Like, come on.
I know.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Vader has a lightsaber and can choke people. Fair enough, that's good and well. He'll just shoot you, and that just blew me away. And since then, I think the whole less is more ethos could not be painted in a better light than Boba Fett as an example in movies.
Mhm.
Just show, don't tell. And that was it.
Yeah.
We show you him. We don't tell you anything about him. Just show you him. There you go. And that's you,
Mhm.
hook, line, and sinker. And I think that's where the mysterious side of things come from. Now, I know they opened his character up in the movies, and I don't mind. Daniel is brilliant as baby Fett, and I love that. I love the fact that he's a clone, but he's not a clone, but he is a clone. But he ages naturally. At first I was, do I want to know a bit more about him? And then I was like, yeah, bloody do. And they've drip fed it. And fair enough to Disney, they haven't just gone balls to the wall, going like that. They've drip fed it, and let that feed through into the last season 2, which just absolutely was balls to the wall, a little bit here, a little bit there, and just keep feeding that mysterious. Who are these people? What are they? And I think it's left us with more questions than answers.
We still don't
Which is
know how he
great.
got out of the Sarlacc.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my first question. Was
Yeah.
how?
Yeah.
I think, is it the books Dengar rescues him, but Dengar rescues him from the desert, not from the pit.
Not from the pit. And again, are the books even being counted after the whole Disney cult of expanded universe?
But didn't they turn around and go, yeah, the expanded universe is non-canon? And then somebody sort of went to the mouse, by the way, they're worth a lot of money. Oh, shit, yeah, well, some of them will be canon. Oh, money, you say? Money? Oh, there's money to be made. Admiral Thrawn, Grand Admiral, sorry, I don't want to demote him there, Grand Admiral. Yeah, and I like the fact that they did initially say, no, it's not canon. And now they are starting, it is canon. It's out of a shadow of a doubt. They're starting to feed it in. The books are starting to come in to where we've always wanted to see them. The one guys and girls that have read the books, there's just such a wealth of material out there for them to get stuck into, which is where I think they're going to go with the new TV series, with the new movies. They say, if it's not broken, why try and fix it?
Yeah. It's a bit remiss. It would be remiss to not sort of speak, especially now we're kind of going into this kind of line now of we're learning about Boba. We lost Jeremy Bulloch not that long ago now.
Lovely guy. Lovely guy.
Lovely man. I met him at one of the Comic Cons in Belfast, and he was such a delight. And then I met him at Garrison events.
Oh, Warren, do you remember Dublin?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember him? Do you remember him and his missus, and wee Kenny and his missus?
Yes.
That was what did you call Tarful? What was the guy who played Tarful?
The
big basketball player. Oh, he was hilarious. But
he was nuts.
I got drunk.
He was absolutely nuts.
I remember I got drunk with Kenny Baker and Jeremy Bulloch, and Kenny was blootered. Kenny was holding a pint, obviously, Kenny. And the stories his missus, because she was his manager before she came in missus, and the dirty stories, you were like, oh my God, I don't want to hear these. And just Jeremy especially was an absolute gent, 100%. Him and his missus, and he'd be sorely missed, an absolute gent from top to bottom.
The two of them would have stood and talked to you for hours on end. Didn't matter where they had to be or what they were doing, they would have both sat there and talked away to you. And you could also tell at the time when you were talking to him that the fame hadn't gone to his head either.
No.
Well,
see, I loved David. We'll have to mention David Prowse. I love David. A lot of people didn't like him and thought he was a bit hard to get along. But I had a friend of mine who was in the RAF, and he was stationed in Newquay down in Cornwall. And when you go down to that part of the world, they have a certain sense of humor, which sarcasm would not be the word of it. Dry as oil boke and sarcastic to the back teeth and back again. And that was David. And once you realize that that's who he is, that's where he's from, that's what his sense of humor is like. I loved him. You know, I didn't mind. I mean, obviously, when we were in the EG, we would got a certain amount of gratuity. We'd have got free signatures and things, and David made us pay for them, and I didn't mind that, because then you got to realize these guys didn't have a pension fund as actors. It's not like now where you would have to set up a private pension. Back then, they didn't even think about that. This was the only way they would make their income.
Although he did have a problem with sitting and counting his money in front of people, you know, like out there, he's going.
Hold on, but let's not forget some of the greats. I mean, I was watching Chadwick Boseman playing James Brown. James Brown was like that. James Brown would have been, you know,
Right.
$25 or $20 for each time you swore, and that went into his pocket. He also got Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash would have had the money up front and wouldn't have been averse to walking around with a revolver to make sure he got paid for a gig before he did a gig. And then you got to remember right the way back to where these guys started from back in the 70s. It was fly by night, you know.
Yeah.
So I honestly didn't mind. I didn't mind David doing that, or some of the, you know, the things that he said, or the way that he said it. As long as you realize, you know, he's from down that neck of the wood. All right, my lover, me flower, like that, you know. And I don't think we'll ever see the like of them again. I
think that's kind of what I was kind of alluding to. You know, it's this kind of now, it's quite bittersweet that we're now kind of in a way learning more about Boba Fett, and we're now getting this series, you know, off the back of the Mando about him, when the original, the great, isn't here anymore. It's, you know, but it's also a kind of a lasting, in a way, testament when you sort of think about it. You know, Jeremy was obviously an elderly man, you know. This is like from the very beginning of Star Wars. Like, it's incredible to see the length of time that Star Wars has persisted, and then the fact that kind of the Mando has come in and is expanding that further. You know, we're starting to see this all kind of like just trying to like link it back in a way to the Mando. You know, how many other real franchises out there have held this level of deep attention and respect across generations of fans? Like, it's.
We got to mention those Hallions. Star Trek.
Yeah.
All right, Star Trek, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, I like Star Trek, but when you're 8 and 9 years old and your dad had an obsession with it, and every Saturday it's like, why don't you watch? Let's watch Star Trek. It gets a bit repetitive. I had a problem with that. I wanted to watch like Art Attack or something like that. Nah, we're gonna watch Star Trek.
And that was your problem? Art Attack or Star Trek?
I was
I
seven.
think you had more than a problem there.
You know, but just like kind of. But no, like, you know, when you look at like Star Wars and the way it's going, and like if I take it from my kind of point of view of, I wasn't that big fan. I have friends now who never watched the movies, are now coming in off the back of the Mando. We're now starting to see all these additional series come out. Like the news even today, I don't actually forgot to say to you, Warren, when I read it this morning. Liam Neeson's coming back as Qui-Gon for the Obi-Wan series. There's very strong talks that he's coming back, and you're like,
I know Hayden's
Warren's
back,
having a wee
isn't he?
moment.
Hayden's back.
Hayden's back.
And
Yeah.
he's going to play Annie, and you're like, if any of them are done a half as well as the Mando has been, Star Wars has never been better.
Mm-hmm.
If we ignore the films, again, I like them, but again, I'm coming from that attitude of I was never that big of a fan. You know, I loved them, but I wasn't.
It's kind of weird to think and that, you know, 2 years ago Star Wars was on the bones of its arse.
Yeah.
And the Mandalorian has certainly turned that around. You know, season 1 and season 2. I mean, season 1, I think season 1 was a bit of a slow burner, especially here, because we didn't get Disney Plus until March last year. So a lot of people waited. I didn't wait, if you know what I mean.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say nothing to a blind man. I didn't wait. I watched it anyway, somehow, through the mysticals
The
of
Force.
The Force. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
use the Force.
it's season 2 has certainly, it has certainly established itself as one of the great sci-fi series of all time. I mean, it's up there with, with the greats of like the likes of Babylon 5,
Oh,
Star Trek, Expanse, you name it, it's now up there.
I think
I would
financially,
definitely
well-
have to agree. Because I mean, personally, I kind of got to a point with Star Wars where it was just like, do you know what? I'm not as big a fan as I used to be anymore. It had been done and done and done to the point where it was like, I'm losing interest. Enter the Mandalorian and boom, that's it. I'm back again.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's literally all it took for, I think, for a lot of the fans was like, just something we hadn't seen before. Respect the material. There's a whole universe out there. It doesn't just have to be about the Skywalkers. Let's see something. Let's see the universe. Let's see that galaxy, the grimness, the dirtiness. What's it like under Imperial rule? And, what's the outskirts? What's the outer rim like? We haven't seen much of that. And now we're seeing it. And it's just like, yes, I want more. Want more.
Yeah. I think I watch. I collect a couple of the figures, as you guys know, and
Me
I
too,
used to watch.
Pete, me too.
Yeah, God help us.
Couple of the several
know.
£100 a pop figures. I'll stick to mine. Like,
I don't
this
know
is
what
as
you're
far
talking
as I
about.
go.
I don't know what you're talking about. £400 for a heavy Mandalorian. Don't know what you're talking about.
This is as far as I go.
No. I do like that though. But I watch a few of the collector videos and the collector channels on YouTube. And before the Mandalorian came out, you would see the guys walking around the Black Series figures and Hot Toys figures from the last movies and the standalone movies. And they weren't exactly flying off the shelves. And a lot of comments where this just shows you how broken Star Wars is. You have these figures. There are rows and rows of figures that just were not selling. People were not interested in it. Bam, along comes the Mandalorian. And the first wave of the Black Series of the Mandalorian himself at Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, you just couldn't get it. You couldn't get it.
Yep. Couldn't get it for love their money.
Scalpers were up the yin yang. You would buy it for £20 and flog it for 130 easily.
Yeah.
Absolutely day in, day out. I mean,
We were in a
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
is that
were
the interactive
in,
one?
I think it was
Yeah, the wee
Home Bargains or
animatronic one.
something.
Home Bargains used to have the Last
They
Jedi
had
and stuff.
They did,
Yeah.
yeah. They still do.
And they were
The
selling
one-
them for like
yeah.
$8.99 or something. And
Yeah.
I was like, that's the Black Series stuff. For
Exactly.
$8.99.
Uh-huh.
That's just...
And even Star Wars Day was just a damp squib. There was nothing. May the 4th, you were like, I think it's quite telling that one of the biggest sellers at the minute was the, what do you call it, lightsaber?
Is that the one you could
Darth
talk
Revan.
into?
The Revan
Oh.
lightsaber that's come out is flying off the shelves. Again, that's nothing to do with the movies. That's got to do with expanded universe, and that's flying off shelves. I mean, I've done a couple of trades and got myself the Hot Toys Heavy Mandalorian. It's the first series that come out, because the second series is going out. The second edition of it is going to come out round about March, and it's £400 plus. And it's only the fact that I was able to trade some of my figures for it. You're sort of like, that's ridiculous money. And it's still holding the money because people still want it. And that also, I think, is, as you've said, is the bam, it's here. It's rebooted it. It absolutely has. And that's something Disney cannot ignore, is the financial.
I love the retro figures that they bought out. They bought out
I was about to say.
Wave 1 was Star Wars, and then Wave 2 was Empire, and then Wave 3 we're getting this year, and it's Mandalorian. And it's like...
Have you seen the 12-inch retro ones? You're just like,
I've seen them.
I was 6 when I had that.
Yeah. I love those
then.
retro ones. Love them. Absolutely love them.
Like, just on the figures. Anybody see the Razor Crest? The £600
Yeah.
Razor Crest
was that the
Hasbro.
Hasbro Lab one?
Yeah.
But can I just say, how miffed were you? In that episode, if you bought that figure.
I laughed my bollocks off. I was like, oh, there's people out there are going to be kicking themselves. They've just bought that.
I'm working on the
And
Lego
it's
one.
gone. It's gone.
Just leave it the
Oh,
way
the
it
Lego
is.
one's easy. Just throw it on the floor.
Just
You're
throw it on
done.
the floor. There you
Brilliant.
go. That's it. It's
Yep.
screen accurate, you know.
And you can double it as Alderaan. You can double it as
You betcha.
exploded Death Star 1 and 2. Lego. Brilliant.
Oh,
But that was again another iconic moment in the series. Like what part of like the Mando season 2 was the bit that like if somebody like you're talking about it to somebody and it just brought up and what's the first thing about that season comes to your head? Like what was that big key
Bill Burr.
moment?
Bill Burr back again as Miggs Mayfeld. Fantastic. Love the man. Love the man's comedy. Seen him live a couple of times. Watched all his stuff. Listened to his podcast. The man is an absolute comedy genius. And the fact that he's in Star Wars and he's slagged off Star Wars fans. And it's just, I can't wait. I really can't wait for an action figure of that. I really can't.
I think for me it was Tamara. I have to say, just seeing that guy as Fett was just, that was fantastic. That was, let's take the best of Clone Wars and just drag it through here, So that brought it all back tied it up nicely. And the fact that he kicked the living shit out of those stormtroopers with a gaffy stick. I mean, ooh, how dangerous can a big stick with a pointy end be? Well, I'm just about to show you.
Yeah.
Let's not hold back in the cracking of the skull sounds either. Thank you very much for that, Happy. That's exactly what I needed to hear. What about you, Warren? What was the standout moment for you?
I kind of have two, and it's a toss-up between Ahsoka and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ahsoka because she was one of the main big characters in the Clone Wars and everything, and I really like who they picked to play her as well. So that was really cool. But the whole Luke moment just got me.
Big hug.
And R2, don't forget R2 was
R2.
there.
Oh my God, how did we forget that?
And seeing R2 again, it
looking shiny.
Yeah, exactly. For once.
And him and Baby Yoda have a wee moment. Oh, it's like,
So
the Ahsoka moment, I liked this. The other reason I liked the Ahsoka moment was it was strong female character without being let's pander because we need a strong female character in this franchise now. No, you don't. You've always had strong leads. I mean, the strongest character of the original trilogy, without a doubt, was Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Princess Leia was head and shoulders above all the blokes.
She was kicking ass right from the start of that. Like,
if everybody hadn't listened to her half the time from the beginning, they wouldn't have been in half the mess they were.
You're going to do an Indiana Jones, aren't you? The Big Bang Theory, Indiana Jones. If he hadn't got involved, it would have still worked out all right.
A little bit. Yeah. I'm not gonna go there.
That's right.
But you're right. I mean, if they'd listened to her from the bloody start, but then she was a leader. She was born to be a leader. That's what she was. And to Ahsoka to have Ahsoka's character come in it and literally, I mean, she had the Mandalorian square up, and she had him. She could take him out anytime she wanted, but she didn't.
Yeah.
She didn't. And then to see her fighting, and then to see what do you call her out of Shield? Oh, the actress.
No hair on about the names.
Yeah.
Oh, Ming-Na Wen, is that?
Yeah. Who's like 92 and looking gorgeous. Yeah. Her character there. Oh my God, an Imperial sniper. Outstanding. And then teaming up with the Fett. Come on. I mean, I do like that. I do like the fact that it was showing that intelligence writing. We will show you strong female character without pandering to the whole PC side of things. We're going to show you don't need to do that because it's there already. And that's the way writing a movie should be at the minute. It should be straight along the board. Let's write it for the sake of writing it. And if it's good writing, then it will look after itself, which is what this season has done without a shadow of a doubt. And, long may it continue.
I think also I just want to mention the quality that they've had of the supporting cast. Some really big names in there from the start. I mean, Timothy Olyphant sitting in there as Cobb Vanth, and then obviously the return of Cardoon and Grief Karga and all that sort of stuff. But then you had Richard Brake, who was the Night King from Game of Thrones. He was the Imperial officer that Miggs shoots in the cantina, in the Imperial cantina.
Apollo Creed.
Apollo Creed again,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's the, Titus, what do you call it? Titus Wellington or whatever. He was the Imperial officer that killed himself on the ship. Katie Sackhoff we've mentioned, Michael Biehn we've mentioned. I mean, these are all sort of like almost sci-fi. These are sci-fi icons in their own right, and they're there now in Star Wars, enriching our universe.
That's
like,
it.
It's like Star Wars is cool again, even for Hollywood. It's like, no, I want to be in Star Wars.
You can wear a Star Wars
your
t-shirt
film.
and not look like a doofus.
Yeah.
Listen, Warren.
Yeah, respect.
So
safe to say.
What do you
with
think, Jess?
Oof.
What was your standout moments?
There were so many. I think that's the really difficult thing. But I think in this season, it would definitely have to be, in a way, the kind of personality we're now finally starting to see of little Grogu. He was this cute little helpless creature in season 1. In season 2, he's a wee git.
Eating the eggs.
I'm gonna wipe out an
bastard.
entire species here for a
Really
snack.
is.
Lads.
Greedy wee
What?
bastard.
Yeah.
Stealing our kids' macarons. That's not on.
And boking them all up.
That's beautiful.
It was those little moments, because there was so much of the season you were on the edge of your seat. There was so much imminent danger.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much stress in such a good way, as odd as that sounds. The stories were holding you, and it was those little moments of little baby Yoda that just kind of helped bring it all kind of back down again. That little bit of humanity in it, in a way, and just I think that one episode would be, and almost a standout for me, is that episode of getting the frog lady.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Back to her husband, like having the rebels, or like the their names I'm complaining. The two X-wing
Filoni
pilots.
That's Filoni.
Filoni coming in. And like, you're normally, like, I know for me, I'd be on the side of the Jedi and the light and all that. But the two of them I wanted to slap, like, you bureaucratic arseholes, just let the man go.
Yeah.
And just that spider thing.
Total shout out to like the likes of, again, sci-fi classics, The Thing and Alien. That's
exactly. I got such Alien vibes off that, and it brought me back in a little way to Harry Potter Aragog.
Oh god.
It was just
because Aragog hasn't done much since then, has he? Now.
No, he hasn't. He's been a really down and out actor, so it's kind of nice to see him being brought back.
Have to get something like,
And that, I mean, if there was an episode to slap the family side of things in your face, it's the end of that bit where little Grogu is reaching out because he wants the little tadpole thing, and he's learned about family by that stage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But just that episode just kind of summed up so much in like a single way, and for me, and it was just such a nice episode. That it just stands out, the comedy of it, the kind of loveliness of it, the danger. It just sort of, in a way, put the entirety of what the Mando is in a 45-minute bracket. And that was a standout episode to me, not given the iconic standout of that finale.
Yeah.
So I think,
and again, I think there's very little dialogue in that episode as well, because the fish lady, she can't speak galactic English or
until she
whatever.
takes over that IG unit.
Yeah.
I died. That was brilliant.
Fantastic.
You're going to get me there, or I'm going to go mad.
She's just hard.
I loved her. She was such again. That's what's been so good about the Mando. It's all these little silly side bits that you love.
That could have been cheesy at the end where she runs and hugs her husband. Could have been so cheesy, but it wasn't.
It was so
beautiful. It really wasn't. And again, it was done without too much CGI. They kept there were people in suits.
Yeah,
that's what we love about Baby Yoda. The fact that he's an animatronic little creature, and I think this season they got him down so much better. He looked so much more realistic, and so much his movements were so much more natural. You felt so much more connected to him this season because he was more like a little baby. Yoda. He had his wee personality, a wee baby Yoda. Exactly. He was just so lovable.
I just
loved the expansion this season. It was so well developed.
I think it ties in with my favorite moment in all Star Wars, without a shadow of a doubt, is the bit where Yoda stops being that comic character, and then you see him just, beating R2-D2 up, and then he just takes a sigh and then starts talking to Obi-Wan, and that's when you're like, holy shit. But you can't do that with CGI. You can, the guys, Frank Oz, wasn't it?
Yeah, Frank. Uh-huh.
He just lifted his hand up and brought it down, and whatever way the puppet was, the shoulders came up and came down, just like a right side. And that's what the guys are doing in The Mandalorian. They're, and fair enough, a lot of the guys, including J.J. Abrams, has admitted keeping it real, keeping as less CGI in as possible makes it much more realistic. And that's what I think they've done with a lot of the baby Grogu, the baby Yoda. They've, yes, you see him walking and that'll be a certain amount of CGI, but the close-ups, that's an animatronic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it real. And I watched an interview with what do you call him? Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers.
Oh, Carl Weathers.
I was about to say.
And he was saying, you end up starting to direct the actors to interact with it as if it's a living creature. And that's what the Muppets did. People ended up stopped looking at the puppeteers, looking at the Muppets. And I think that's another quality that they've brought, that they've kept, that makes it that so much real. Because as you say, in this first season, he's just this helpless little baby. Now he has this character, this little shit.
It's like when they land back on the planet, your lady who runs the kind of garage has the pet droids. That was in episode 1. Like when Baby Yoda sees her, he's like, like a little baby, lift me up. And she lifts him up straight away, and he looks like a little baby gaggling away and remembers her and all. It was all those little silly little bits, all those returns to season 1, all the side characters that supported everything so beautifully, that just made the whole season envelop into this very, very immersive world that I think the last trilogy film missed altogether.
Yeah.
And it's now it's where it needs to be. Like the Mando was just perfect.
Convoluted.
Yeah, where was Finn? That's what I say. Stormtrooper who held a lightsaber in the very first movie.
They could have done so much with him. They could have done so much with him. And they missed the mark.
That
would have been interesting.
I think my favorite bit of the movies was Lando Calrissian coming back and being still cool, without even trying. He didn't even try. Billy D. Williams was just there going, I'm not going to try. I am cool. And you're like,
Still
you know what?
cape.
You are. Yeah. I've seen your cape collection. I've seen it in Solo. I know you're cheesy. I like that bit in Solo with the cape collection. That was the only bit I liked so much. I didn't like Solo. I don't like that. But if you had to ask, I'm going to ask you a difficult question. What did you not like about? What was the one? If you had to pick one thing you didn't like about season 2, what would it have been? Oh, Warren.
The ending.
Oh, in what way?
And that it ended, because I agree.
It's just. I didn't like the feeling that the journey has ended for the Mandalorian and Grogu. I think they work. The whole concept of the show is that they work as a double act, and now if they take that away, and if there is another series of Mandalorian, you're going to be constantly wanting the two of them back together. And I thought that yes, okay, it sort of falls. It falls like a lot of the other westerns do. It's like that Shane moment. Shane Shane goes and never to be seen again, and the wee fella's shouting for him, and it's kind of like it's a play on that. And I hope to God that's not where it ends. I hope that there's I hope that the whole thing is that Grogu and Jin have to be together. That's them for life, bonded, father,
lone
son,
wolf and cub sort of thing.
Whatever. Yeah. I hope that that's the way that it has to go. And I hope that it comes full circle again like that.
I would pay money
that's the only
to
bit
see,
I didn't like.
I'd pay money to see little baby Yoda in a tiny Mando armor.
Yeah.
I would pay serious money.
I've seen
Mando
a lot
armor
of
or
the
Jedi
Jedi
robes? Jedi robes or Mando armor?
Mando armor.
Or Mando armor with robes over the top of it? Because
I was just about to say, why not both?
Yeah, both.
The books have both. The books have the both. What about you, Warren? What was your worst bit?
Honestly, I don't know off the top of my head, but I agree with what Bill said, and also earlier on what he said as well about how they didn't use Sebastian as Luke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as Jess mentioned earlier on, they're going to have Luke later on, and Sebastian's going to play him. So why not have Sebastian play him at the end of this? Mm-hmm. And it would sort of, yes, the CGI and everything, it kind of, to me, it felt as if it pandered a wee bit too much to us, the older generation.
Yeah.
So I'm but I liked it as well because I kind of went, yeah, that's the Luke I know. But you have to think about it rationally and go, well, they're going to use Sebastian as Luke from here on, so why not have Sebastian make this his big, big moment, his big reveal sort of time,
That would have been a perfect opportunity to tie it all together.
Yeah, exactly. So that would have been, that's the two of them coming together, and that would have been his big reveal as, yeah, I'm the new guy in town. I'm going to be Luke from here on,
What about you, Jess? If you had to pick
It's kind of hard to say in a way because it did feel like season 1. It was very well planned out. It was all beautifully put together. It all flowed well. It brought in what it needed to without being over the top. I didn't feel it pandered too much. It stuck true to its story without trying to go out of its way to please Star Wars fans. It is what it is. But I think in a way, I would kind of have to agree with Bill and Warren. I loved that finale, but I don't like this feeling of they're not just going to leave it there, are they? It feels like we're only just getting somewhere in a way. It feels like we're only now starting to see that clan of 2 forming. That was the big thing with the sigil, that he was given. And it just sort of feels like there's a plot point here they're missing.
Yeah.
They can't be separated. It's the whole point of the creed of the Mando. This is the way. And that is their way. They are the clan of 2. And I don't really like this separation. We obviously don't know where this is going. We could see maybe in the Book of Fett or whatever, there could maybe be another side thing. You never know. If they do kind of stick with the Kylo Ren side, maybe Baby Yoda did go back to Mando to become a Mandalorian, leave his Jedi sort of past behind. But until I have that answer, that's the only bit I don't like. It just sort of feels like I need to know.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing.
It's almost like an Empire that Strikes Back moment, isn't it?
It's not
This is how people would have felt at the end of Empire Strikes Back.
I missed.
So it's like, oh well, hopefully everything will be all right then.
I love that. Yeah. I'd have to agree with you. It's the only thing that didn't quite sit right on my shoulders was the ending. Going, what are we going to do now? Because that's the family broken up. Yeah. You kind of knew it was coming. You kind of knew, obviously, his job was to get him to more of his kind. But as you said, as the armor said, that's your clan now. You're a clan of 2. So, if he's a clan of 2, he's a clan of 1 now. Even though you knew it was coming, but I don't know. In Filoni, I have faith. That's all I can say.
That's the only thing that's keeping me happy in a way with that finale is going, trust in the plan.
Yeah.
This is the way. This is the way. And Filoni, he has spoken.
He has spoken.
There is I don't think they're going to steer us wrong.
No, they're definitely not.
But I'm still, I need to know. It's the first time in a very long time with a show where it has just been like, I need to know.
It's going to be 2 years till you find out now, isn't it?
I know.
Yep.
Because you're going to have Fett first. And in fact, I think they've started Fett, haven't they? And as soon as Fett's finished, they're going to go on to the Mandalorian.
It's going to be a while till we know.
Get the books
and that's the only thing that throws me. There's no Baby Yoda in the books.
Don't need it. You have Republic Commandos. Read that. Read the
I'll watch
public
Rebels and I'll watch Clone Wars.
Oh, you'll not be disappointed. You really won't be disappointed. And I defy you not to have a box of tissues beside you at the very, very end of Clone Wars. The very last episode. It's like, well, I'm going to make a cup of tea, something in my eye. Terrible. Oh, wee man. There's my wee cat, excuse me.
Well, that has been a heck of a kind of rambling, twisting tale through the Mando, Star Wars, the universe as is for Star Wars. Because you can't deny, you can't really talk about the Mandalorian without starting to bring in everything else. You know, it was so well kind of integrated into everything. It's almost impossible to talk about it on its own in a way, you know. But I think we've kind of covered it quite well. So I think the very last thing to do before we wrap up is the kind of final question. What do you think is next?
Ooh.
We've kind of touched on it probably a little bit, but what in your gut do you think is next?
You don't want to see a cat bum. Sorry, cat bum was next. Here you go, wee man.
What do you think is next now for Ginger and Baby Yoda?
I think they're going to come together again somehow. I think they know, the directors and writers know this is the way this works. This is the way. And somehow they'll come together again. And he's up again. Good God. There you go. Go sit in your pillow. Come on. Excuse. Oh, man. I think they're going to... I heard talk that Ahsoka's going to get her own series.
Yeah.
That was announced. Yep.
I hope they
that
keep
big
that.
announcement they did at the start of the year, the shareholder meeting.
I hope they sort of keep that tied in, but I can see the Mandalorian and Mandalore story continuing. I think that's going to go. I think that's where he's going to go. I'd like to see him get back to a bit of bounty hunter roots on the side, but I think that just helps it skip along to the overline arc. And I think it's going to be Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian side. I think that's where it's going to go.
Yeah,
I'm bringing.
It's definitely set up for a big fight there. For the whole Darksaber thing has definitely introduced us to a bit of infighting. So I think he's going to be involved in that at some point. But yeah, we do need the greedy one back. Like, definitely need him back.
Yeah. Warren?
No. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think they're going to have to bring Baby Yoda back. I think it's something that definitely is bringing the new generation into it. You know, the new generation of fans and stuff like that there. So yeah, I think he's not out of it completely. I think he's going to be back.
We'll find a way to bring him back. Maybe it can't work.
Yeah, maybe whether he stays with Luke and they tie that story together in with it, you never know. I mean, we now have Sebastian as Luke, so maybe that'll stay in it. I don't know. Or whether he comes back as a Mandalorian, who's to say? But definitely, I think they will be keeping him in somehow.
And more of
the kind of consensus.
More of the Watch. I want to see more of the Watch. More of his nut job zealots as Katie
Death
called
Watch.
You can't get enough of nutbud zealots.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've all kind of come to the consensus overall in our meandering discussion of the Mando is that it was amazing. We all loved it. We all want more of it. And who knows what we're going to see next. But here's hoping, and we all have faith in Happy and Dave, and this is very much the way. All hail.
All hail.
All hail.
So say we all.
So say we all. We have spoken. We have spoken. Well, on that then, I hope then we've all kind of got it off our chests and we're all quite happy now, and we can all now look forward to the future of the Mando, and we'll obviously have the bajillion and one Star Wars series to keep us going until that point. So I would just like to say thank you very much, everybody, for coming on this lovely little discussion with me today, and a massive thank you, Jim, for letting me have my little Geek Out sessions on the side for the BanterFlix team. So without further ado, thank you very much, Bill, for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Pete.
Thank you very much, Jess.
And thank you very much, husband in the other room.
I'm just here anyway.
You had no option. And thank you very, very much, everyone, for listening in to our discussion. And I hope you all found it quite interesting. And I'm sure there'll be maybe a post or two about this on social media where if you have any views or comments, I'd love to hear it, because I've now become one of those Star Wars fans that I ranted about for so many years.
One of us.
Unfortunately so. And on that, thank you very much, guys, and bye.
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 This has been We Need to Talk About Movies. Thanks for listening. For more information, visit BanterFlix.com. See you next time.